Some children grow up with love. Others grow up learning how to survive. Ella was an orphan who lived in a house where kindness had no place. She worked every day, obeyed every rule, and stayed silent through every insult, hoping one day things would change. But instead of love, she was sent away with nothing. No warning, no protection, no place to call home. Alone in the city with fear in her heart and hope slowly fading, Ella believed her story had reached its end. She was wrong, because one unexpected meeting would connect her to a man whose life was built on power and wealth, a billionaire whose path was about to cross hers in a way neither of them could have imagined. This is a story about rejection, kindness, hidden truth, and destiny. Stay with me till the end. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Ella woke up before the sun rose, just as she did every morning. The house was quiet, but her heart was already heavy. She slipped out of the small corner space she slept in and stepped into the compound. The ground was dusty and cold beneath her feet. She picked up the broom and began to sweep slowly, carefully, making sure no corner was missed. If the compound was not clean before Auntie Brenda woke up, there would be trouble. "Are you sweeping or dancing?" Auntie Brenda's sharp voice soon cut through the morning air. "I'm sweeping, Auntie," Ella replied softly, lowering her head. Since her parents died 5 years ago, Ella had lived in this house. At first, people praised Auntie Brenda for taking in an orphan. But once the praise stopped, the kindness stopped too. Inside the house, Ella became someone who worked without rest and lived without affection. She cooked breakfast but never sat at the table. She washed plates but never tasted the food. Every mistake, no matter how small, was met with harsh words. "You should be grateful you're here," Auntie Brenda often said. "Other orphans sleep on the streets." Ella always nodded. She had learned that silence was safer. Later that morning, while cleaning her sleeping space, Ella felt something hard beneath her thin mattress. Her heart skipped. She slowly pulled it out. A small metal box. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a faded photograph of her parents, smiling warmly, and a folded letter written in her mother's handwriting. Ella's eyes filled with tears. "I miss you so much," she whispered. She unfolded the letter carefully. "My dear Ella." She didn't get to read more. "What are you hiding there?" Auntie Brenda's voice came from behind. Ella turned quickly. "Auntie, it's my mother's." Auntie Brenda took the box from her hands and glanced at the contents. Her face hardened. "You're still holding on to useless memories?" she scoffed. "That's why you're slow and foolish." She tore the letter into pieces and dropped them on the floor. Ella froze. Her chest tightened, but she didn't cry. She knelt quietly and picked up the torn pieces with shaking fingers. "I'm tired of you," Auntie Brenda continued coldly. "You've stayed here long enough." Ella looked up, confused. "Auntie?" "Pack your things," Auntie Brenda said firmly. "You're leaving today." The words felt unreal. "But it's evening," Ella said in a small voice. "Where will I go?" Auntie Brenda turned away. "That is not my problem anymore." As night fell, Ella stood outside the gate with a small bag. Inside it were 2 dresses and the photograph she managed to hide before it was taken away. The gate closed behind her with a loud sound that echoed in her heart. She stood there for a moment, hoping the gate would open again. It didn't. Ella walked slowly down the road until her legs began to ache. Streetlights flickered above her as cars passed by without slowing down. When she could walk no more, she sat at a bus stop and hugged her bag tightly. Fear crept into her heart, followed by hunger and loneliness. "God," she whispered into the night, "please remember me." Just then, bright headlights appeared in the distance. A black SUV slowed down near the bus stop, its lights cutting through the darkness. Ella stood up slowly, unsure of what to do. A man stepped out of the car, well-dressed and calm. His voice was gentle but firm. "Are you all right?" he asked. Ella looked up, surprised by the kindness in his tone. She did not know his name. She did not know he was a billionaire. She did not know this moment would change her life forever. She only knew one thing. This was the night her old life ended, and a new chapter was about to begin. Ella did not sleep that night. The bench at the bus stop was cold and hard, and every sound made her jump. When morning finally came, her body ached, and her eyes burned from holding back tears. She stood up slowly, brushed dust from her dress, and picked up her small bag. "I will survive," she whispered to herself. The city was already awake. Cars moved fast, people rushed past her, each one busy with their own life. Ella walked along the roadside searching for anything, work, help, or even a place to sit without being chased away. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. As she passed near a busy shopping area, she noticed a small crowd forming. People were whispering and pointing. "Something is wrong," someone said. Ella moved closer and saw an older woman sitting weakly on a bench, her face pale and her breathing slow. People stood around unsure of what to do. Ella didn't think twice. She knelt beside the woman and spoke gently. "Mom, can you hear me?" The woman opened her eyes slightly. "She needs air," Ella said calmly. "Please give her space." Her voice was soft, but something in it made people listen. Someone handed her a bottle of water. Ella helped the woman take small sips and stayed close, holding her hand. "It will be okay," Ella whispered. "Just breathe." A black car stopped suddenly nearby. A man stepped out quickly, fear written all over his face. "Mother!" he called out. It was the same man from the night before. He rushed forward and knelt beside the older woman. "What happened?" "She felt weak and needed help," Ella explained. "She's breathing better now." The man looked at Ella with surprise and relief mixed together. "Thank you," he said quietly. An ambulance soon arrived and took the woman away. The man followed, then turned back to Ella. "Please," he said, "come with us." Ella shook her head. "I'm okay. I just wanted to help." He reached into his pocket. "At least take this." Ella stepped back gently. "Please use it for her." She turned and walked away before he could say more. At the hospital, the doctor later spoke to the man. "If no one had stayed calm and acted quickly, it could have been worse," the doctor said. "She was lucky." The man nodded, his thoughts returning to the girl. "Find her," he told his driver. "I need to thank her properly." Outside, Ella sat alone under a tree, exhausted. She pulled out the faded photo of her parents and stared at it. "I hope you're proud of me," she whispered. She didn't notice the black SUV stopping across the road. She didn't see the man watching her quietly. And she didn't know that her simple act of kindness had just opened a door she never imagined existed. The sun was already high when Ella continued walking through the city. Her feet hurt and her stomach felt empty, but she refused to stop. She moved from street to street, asking politely at shops, restaurants, and small offices if they needed help. Most people didn't even look at her. Others shook their heads. "We're not hiring." "Try somewhere else. Come back another day." At one small cafe, the owner glanced at her worn clothes and sighed. "I need someone with experience," he said, gently but firmly. "I understand," Ella replied, forcing a smile before walking away. By midday, the heat became unbearable. Ella sat under a tree near the roadside, resting her head against the trunk. Her eyes closed for a moment, and she whispered a short prayer. "God, please don't let me give up." A man's voice broke her thoughts. "Are you looking for work?" Ella opened her eyes quickly. A stranger stood in front of her, smiling too much. "Yes, sir," she said carefully. "Any honest work?" "There's a house where you can help," the man replied. "Good pay. I can take you there now." Something in his tone made Ella uneasy. She remembered her mother's words. Not every offer is safe. "Where is the house?" Ella asked. "Far," the man said, "but trust me." Before she could answer, a car horn sounded sharply. A black SUV pulled up beside them. "Step away from her," a firm voice said. The stranger turned and quickly walked away. The driver from the hospital stepped out. "Are you all right?" he asked Ella. Yes, she replied, her heart still racing. My boss has been looking for you, he said. He wants to speak with you. Ella hesitated, then nodded. Minutes later, she sat inside the SUV, staring out the window in disbelief. She had never been inside such a car before. They arrived at a large, quiet house surrounded by tall gates and flowers. It looked peaceful, not frightening. Inside, the man from the hospital stood waiting. My name is Nathan Kingsley, he said calmly. Please sit. Ella sat slowly. You helped my mother when no one else did, Nathan continued. You asked for nothing in return. I just did what was right, Ella said softly. Nathan nodded. My mother needs assistance while she recovers. I would like you to stay here and help her. Ella's eyes widened. Sir, I don't think I belong in a place like this. You belong where you are respected, Nathan replied. This will not be forced, only if you agree. Ella thought of the streets, the hunger, the night. I will try my best, she said quietly. Later, she met Mrs. Kingsley. The older woman smiled warmly the moment she saw her. You're the girl who stayed with me, she said, holding Ella's hands. Thank you, my child. Ella felt something soften in her chest. From the hallway, a woman watched them silently. Her name was Clara. Her eyes followed Ella closely, unreadable. That evening, as Ella unpacked her small bag, she felt something unfamiliar. Hope. But far away in a small house across town, Auntie Brenda stared at a television screen in shock. In the background of a news report, she saw a familiar face. Ella. Her lips tightened. That girl, she muttered bitterly. How did she end up there? And just like that, trouble began to find its way back into Ella's life. Life inside the Kingsley house felt calm, but unfamiliar. Ella woke up each morning unsure if it was real. No shouting, no insults, no rushing in fear. Mrs. Kingsley spoke to her kindly, asked about her meals, and thanked her for even the smallest help. Ella was not used to being appreciated. You have gentle hands, Mrs. Kingsley said one afternoon as Ella helped arrange flowers, and a gentle heart. Ella smiled shyly. No one had ever said that to her before. But peace has a way of attracting trouble. One quiet afternoon, the sound of the gate opening echoed through the compound. Ella looked up from the garden and felt her heart drop. A familiar voice floated through the air. Ella. She turned slowly. Auntie Brenda stood there, dressed neatly, her face filled with forced concern. She looked nothing like the woman who had sent Ella away without a second thought. My child? Auntie Brenda cried, walking closer. I've been worried sick I couldn't sleep knowing you were alone. Ella felt frozen in place. Mrs. Kingsley, seated nearby, looked up in surprise. Do you know her? Yes, Ma'am, Ella said quietly. She is my auntie. Auntie Brenda wiped fake tears from her eyes. I made a mistake. I was angry. Please forgive me. I only want my niece back. Ella's voice trembled, but she spoke honestly. You told me to leave. You locked the gate behind me. Auntie Brenda's expression tightened for a moment, then softened again. I didn't mean it. I was overwhelmed. Nathan arrived and listened calmly. You are welcome to speak, he said evenly, but only the truth is allowed in this house. Auntie Brenda nodded quickly. Of course, sir. I raised her like my own. Ella said nothing. Her silence spoke louder than words. That evening, something strange happened. Mrs. Kingsley noticed her favourite necklace was missing. It caused confusion, not anger, but concern. Staff searched carefully. Later, the necklace was found, inside Ella's bag. Ella felt her breath leave her chest. I didn't take it, she said softly. I swear. Auntie Brenda sighed loudly. Oh, Ella, why would you do this after all the kindness you've received? Ella's eyes filled with tears. You know I wouldn't. Mrs. Kingsley held Ella's hand tightly. I believe her. Nathan said nothing, but his eyes were thoughtful. That night, Ella sat quietly in her room, her bag packed. I don't want to cause trouble, she told Mrs. Kingsley. I will leave. Mrs. Kingsley shook her head. You are not going anywhere. Elsewhere in the house, Dylan spoke quietly to Nathan. Sir, he said, the camera recordings from earlier today are missing. Nathan looked up sharply. Missing? Yes, Dylan replied. They were deleted. Nathan's gaze moved slowly down the hallway and stopped on Clara, who stood nearby pretending to organize files. For the first time, Nathan realized something was very wrong. And far away, Auntie Brenda smiled to herself, believing her lies had worked. She didn't know the truth had already begun to fight back. The Kingsley house felt different the next morning. It was still beautiful, still quiet, but something heavy hung in the air, like a cloud that refused to move. Staff members spoke in low voices, doors opened and closed softly. No one laughed. Ella noticed it immediately. She stayed in her room longer than usual, sitting on the edge of the bed with her hands folded tightly in her lap. The necklace found in her bag replayed in her mind again and again. Why would anyone want to ruin me? She wondered. Downstairs, Nathan sat in his study, staring at the security reports on his tablet. His expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Ella didn't take that necklace, he said firmly. Dylan nodded. I believe the same, sir. There was no reason for her to do it. Then someone wanted her to look guilty, Nathan replied. And that means this is not a small issue. He stood up. I want a full review of everyone who entered the house yesterday. Every movement. Yes, sir, Dylan said. Meanwhile, Mrs. Kingsley asked Ella to sit with her in the living room. You look worried, the older woman said gently. I don't want to be a burden, Ella replied quietly. I just arrived, and now there is trouble. Mrs. Kingsley reached out and held her hand. Trouble does not come because of you. It comes because of people's choices. Ella lowered her head. I'm afraid people will think I don't belong here. Mrs. Kingsley studied her face for a long moment. Do you know why I trust you? She asked. Ella shook her head. Because you helped me when you had nothing, Mrs. Kingsley said. People who are truly dishonest never do that. Those words stayed with Ella. That afternoon, Nathan called a meeting with the household staff. Everyone gathered in the sitting room. No one is accused, Nathan said calmly. But the truth matters in this house. Anyone who knows something should speak. Silence followed. Clara stood among the staff, her posture perfect, her face unreadable. Auntie Brenda sat near the back, arms crossed, watching Ella closely. Her eyes held no warmth. Later, when the meeting ended, Clara approached Auntie Brenda quietly near the guest corridor. She is becoming important, Clara whispered. If she stays, things will change. Auntie Brenda's lips curved into a thin smile. Then we must make sure she doesn't stay. That evening, Mrs. Kingsley asked Ella to go to a nearby pharmacy to get her medication. Dylan was delayed, and Ella offered to go alone since the place was close. I'll be quick, she promised. The street was calm and the sun was setting. Ella walked carefully, holding the medicine list in her hand. She felt a strange unease, like someone was watching her. A car slowed down nearby. The window rolled down slightly. Are you Ella? A man asked politely. Yes, she replied cautiously. Your auntie asked me to help you, he said. She said you were lost. Ella's heart skipped. My auntie? Before she could ask more, the car door opened and another voice spoke firmly. Get in. We just want to talk. Ella stepped back, fear rising in her chest. No, she said. I don't know you. The car moved forward slowly, blocking her path. Back at the Kingsley house, Mrs. Kingsley waited. Minutes passed, then more minutes. Ella didn't return. Nathan's phone rang. He answered, and heard a voice that made his blood run cold. If you want the girl to come back safely, the voice said calmly, you will listen carefully. Nathan's grip tightened on the phone. At that moment, he knew something with the necklace had turned into something far more dangerous. And the fight to protect Ella had truly begun. Nathan stood still after the call ended, his phone pressed tightly to his ear. For a moment, the world around him went silent. Ella was gone, not missing, Not delayed. Taken. He lowered the phone slowly, his face calm but his heart racing. Mrs. Kingsley looked at him from across the room, her eyes already filled with worry. "Where is Ella?" she asked softly. Nathan met her gaze. She didn't make it to the pharmacy. Mrs. Kingsley's hand flew to her chest. "Oh no, my child!" Nathan turned sharply to Dylan. "Trace the call. I want a location." Dylan was already moving. "I'm on it, sir." Within minutes, screens lit up. Coordinates appeared. "It's an old warehouse near the industrial area," Dylan said. "Remote, quiet." Nathan nodded once. "Prepare the car." "Sir," Dylan said carefully, "they told you to come alone." Nathan's eyes hardened. "I will go alone, but you will stay close. I will not lose her." The drive felt endless. Streetlights blurred past as Nathan stared straight ahead, his thoughts dark and heavy. For the first time in years, money meant nothing to him. Power meant nothing. Only one thing mattered. Ella. At the warehouse, Nathan stepped out of the car alone. The building looked empty, abandoned by time. The air was cold and still. A man stepped forward from the shadows. "Victor, you came," Victor said calmly. "Good." "Where is she?" Nathan asked. Victor smiled. "Safe. For now." Ella was brought forward moments later. She looked frightened but unharmed, her hands clasped tightly together. When she saw Nathan, relief washed over her face. "Sir," she whispered, "I'm sorry." Nathan shook his head. "You did nothing wrong." Victor watched them closely. "Interesting," he said. "You care." Nathan stepped forward slowly. "Let her go. Take whatever you want from me." Victor laughed softly. "Your father took something from my family. This is balance." "I am not my father," Nathan replied. "No," Victor said, "but you benefit from his legacy." Silence filled the space. Then Nathan did something no one expected. He lowered himself to his knees. "I will fix what I can," he said quietly. "But she has nothing to do with your pain." Ella gasped. "Sir, please." Victor's smile faded slightly. He hadn't expected this. Behind the warehouse, unseen, Dylan and security waited. Sirens sounded faintly in the distance. Victor stepped back. "This isn't over," he said sharply. Before he could move again, security stepped in. Victor was restrained without struggle. Ella's legs gave way. Nathan rushed forward and caught her. "You're safe," he said, holding her gently. "It's over." She nodded, tears falling silently. Back at the mansion later that night, Mrs. Kingsley held Ella tightly, whispering prayers of thanks. Doctors confirmed she was unharmed, just shaken. As police led Victor away, he turned and looked at Mrs. Kingsley. "You still haven't told her the truth," he said quietly. Mrs. Kingsley froze. Nathan turned to his mother. "What truth?" Mrs. Kingsley's face drained of colour. She looked at Ella, really looked at her, and her breath caught. Her eyes fell on a small birthmark near Ella's neck. Her hands began to shake. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." Ella's heart raced. "Mom?" Mrs. Kingsley sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face. "Your mother," she said brokenly, "was once part of this family." The room went silent, and Ella realized that being taken had led her not just to danger, but to a truth that would change everything. The room felt heavy with silence. Ella stood in the middle of the living room, her heart pounding as Mrs. Kingsley's words echoed in her ears. "Your mother was once part of this family." Nathan looked from his mother to Ella, confusion and shock written across his face. "Mother, what do you mean?" Mrs. Kingsley pressed a hand to her chest, trying to steady her breathing. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled to speak. "I should have said something long ago," she whispered. "I thought keeping quiet would protect everyone, but silence only made things worse." Ella swallowed hard. "Please, tell me." Mrs. Kingsley nodded slowly. "Your mother's name was Lydia. She worked closely with my husband many years ago. She was honest, intelligent, and deeply loyal. She was like family to us." Ella's eyes filled with tears. My mother never spoke badly about anyone, she said softly. She always said kindness was her shield. Mrs. Kingsley nodded. That was Lydia. She took a deep breath and continued. When powerful people began targeting my husband's business, Lydia became afraid. She knew too much. My husband promised to protect her, but, instead of standing firmly, he sent her away quietly. He believed distance would keep her safe. Nathan clenched his fists. And it didn't. No, Mrs. Kingsley said, her voice breaking. She struggled, and when she died, I tried to find her child, but someone had already taken you. All eyes slowly turned toward Auntie Brenda, who stood stiffly near the doorway, her face pale. You, Nathan said coldly. Auntie Brenda shook her head quickly. I only took what was offered, she said defensively. I was promised support. I didn't know it would end like this. You took a child meant to be protected, Mrs. Kingsley said firmly, and you treated her without love. Ella felt her knees weaken. Everything she had endured suddenly made painful sense. Dylan stepped forward. Sir, we recovered the missing recordings, he said. They confirm the necklace was placed in Ella's bag by someone else. Clara's face drained of colour. I was afraid, Clara admitted quietly, tears falling. I thought if Ella stayed, I would lose my place. Nathan looked at her with disappointment. You chose lies over integrity. Security escorted Clara away. Auntie Brenda began to cry loudly. I raised her. I deserve something. Nathan's voice was firm. You will answer for your choices. As Auntie Brenda was led away, Ella closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks, not from hatred, but from release. I don't want revenge, she said softly. I just want peace. Mrs. Kingsley pulled her into a warm embrace. And you will have it, my child. Nathan stepped closer. I cannot undo my father's mistakes, he said gently, but I can make sure your mother's name is honoured and your future protected. He handed Ella a folder. Inside were documents for schooling, counselling, and support. Ella trembled as she held them. No one has ever done this for me. Nathan smiled faintly. You changed our lives before we changed yours. As night settled over the house, Ella stood by the window, staring at the stars. For the first time, her past had a voice. And for the first time, her future felt real. Morning came softly, like a promise. Sunlight slipped through the curtains in Ella's room, warming her face. She opened her eyes slowly and lay still for a moment, listening. No shouting, no fear, no footsteps filled with anger, only peace. For the first time in her life, Ella smiled when she woke up. Downstairs, the Kingsley house was calm but busy. News had spread quickly. Victor was in custody, answering for his actions. The truth about the necklace and the lies inside the house had been fully uncovered. Clara was gone. Auntie Brenda was no longer allowed anywhere near Ella. Justice had spoken, quietly, firmly. But Ella did not feel joy over anyone's fall. She only felt free. Mrs. Kingsley invited Ella to sit with her that morning. They shared breakfast at the same table, something Ella once believed she would never deserve. My child, Mrs. Kingsley said gently, holding Ella's hands. You have carried pain with grace. Your mother would be so proud of you. Tears filled Ella's eyes. I wish she were here, Mrs. Kingsley nodded. She is, in everything good that lives in you. Later that day, Nathan took Ella and his mother to a quiet cemetery. The wind moved gently through the trees as they stopped before a simple grave. Lydia Grace. Ella knelt slowly. Her heart ached, but it was no longer empty. I didn't know where you were, she whispered, but I never forgot you. Mrs. Kingsley placed flowers beside the grave. Your name will no longer be hidden, she said firmly. The world will know your kindness. Nathan stood beside them, silent but thoughtful. I promise, he said quietly. Your life will not be forgotten, and your daughter will never walk alone again. Weeks passed. True to his word, Nathan established the Lydia Grace Foundation, dedicated to helping orphan children receive education, care, and protection. The foundation carried Ella's mother's name with honor and truth. Ella returned to school. On her first day, she stood outside the school gate holding new books close to her chest. Her heart raced, but this time, it was from hope, not fear. As she stepped inside, she felt something new grow within her. Confidence. At the Kingsley house, Ella was no longer treated like a visitor who might disappear. Her room was decorated with her favourite colours. Her opinions mattered. Her laughter filled the halls. One evening, as they sat in the garden watching the sunset, Mrs. Kingsley spoke softly. Ella, she said, would you allow me to be your guardian? Officially. Ella gasped. Tears flowed freely as she nodded. I would love that. Nathan smiled, watching the two of them. Later, he spoke quietly to Ella alone. You changed my life, he said honestly. Not with money, with courage. Ella shook her head. I only stayed kind because pain taught me what cruelty feels like. Nathan nodded. That is your strength. That night, Ella stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. The same city that once ignored her now felt full of possibility. She held the framed photo of her parents close. I survived, she whispered, and I will live well. Ella was once a poor orphan sent away with nothing, but kindness found her, truth lifted her, and love gave her a future. Her past had tried to break her, but her heart rebuilt everything. And for the first time, Ella believed, not just in tomorrow, but in herself.